Postgame, Johnny Mac. Eagles get blown out in Miami in week 3 of the preseason. I will get it right to you for your first takeaways. I know we talked about the first half already at halftime. What was your takeaways from the second half, looking past just the blowout of the preseason?
I think this is one you kind of throw out. The Eagles don't value it. That's what I was kind of saying to some of the other reporters. Why should we? So you got to have that sort of almost like 24-hour cooling off period where you can't put too much emphasis on this particular game. As we said at halftime, the Dolphins played their starters. Nick Sirianni said he knew that was coming. Was a little bit disappointed about how the reserves adjusted, but you know, you're playing a good NFL team and their starters against your backups, and that's never going to end well, especially with the talent differential quarterback, especially. So he was frustrated. I think he was disappointed because he's a competitor, but I think he also realizes he's got to calm down, kind of throw this one out, and understand it doesn't mean all that much at the end of the day. He came down this week thinking he was going to get 2 joint practices in, and that was going to be it for his starters. So he got 1, but he was able to get in another practice where he worked, strictly with the 1s and the 2s. So it all went to plan from the Eagles standpoint. The problem is it didn't go to plan from Miami's standpoint, and they decided to play their starters. So it kind of skewed the impact and the effect of the game.
Yeah, and then Miami skewed it again in the game because the second and third stringers went up against the Miami starters and just got blown out. Was there anything good from the second half that you saw? Any good players that stood out to you? Devin Allen looked good as a
I thought Devin Allen. It's funny you bring him up. He did a tremendous job as a gunner on punt returns. There was the 158-yard punt. By the way, Aaron Cepas really had a good game as well. Now, that's what we're talking about in a blowout loss, special teams. But obviously, Cepas is a question mark. So when he has a game like that, it's positive. But on the 58-yard punts, Devin Allen was right there to the point it became a 60-yard punt because he tackled the guy for a 2-yard loss. And then on the muff that turned into the Eagles' first points of the game, the Jake Elliott field goal, was also Devin Allen sort of bearing down on the punt returner as he did muff it. And then Matt Leah was able to fall on the football. So small little positives like that. Obviously, Jason Huntley with a 67-yard touchdown, good toe-tapping run on the sidelines. It was, a lot of that was bad technique from the Dolphins, but you saw his speed as well. So that was a little bit of a positive. Zander, you're excited. You got to see Carson Strong. You probably didn't want to see Carson Strong. We got to talk to Carson, really nice kid, in the locker room afterwards. So it's been a disappointing summer for him. We'll see if the Eagles want to keep him around on the practice squad soon enough. But Reed Sinnett didn't play well. It was a bad day for the offense. It was a bad day but it's a preseason game, and the good thing is it doesn't count. So, who cares?
Is it possible, John, that Howie Roseman does not keep Reed Sinnett around, or he tries to make a move? I didn't do too much, but I did just look at your buddy Ed Kratz from Sports Illustrated, just put up a little synopsis of the game and a first 53 initial 53, as you like to say, projection, and he had 2 quarterbacks on there, Jalen and Gardner. Do you see that as a possibility? And maybe a 4th running back like Huntley that might create room for someone like him. Now maybe it's not him, but an example like that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting maneuvering because there's, Nick Sirianni talked, might have been this week or last week, about typically in his career, more often than not, he's gone with 2 quarterbacks, not 3. So you can do it by getting that third quarterback onto the practice squad. And I don't think there's as much concern that somebody's going to pick up Reed Sinnett right now. So, you can get him through waivers most likely and get him on the practice squad. That gives you another roster spot. I still think they may only keep 3 running backs because I don't think Jason Huntley has done enough to make this team, even with the 67-yard run. Like I said, if you're going to throw out the bad stuff, well, then you can't put too much overemphasis on the good stuff. They're deep on the offensive line, deep on the defensive line. And what I always say, a lot of people say it's the final cut. It's not the final cut. It's the initial 53. And one of the tweaks I've talked about before that's become in vogue, for instance, in the NFL is releasing the long snapper and saying, hey, wink, wink, Rick Lovato. Right. We love you. We want you, but we have to release you to keep somebody else. And then we'll redo it and we'll find the spot for you when we readjust some other things. So the initial cut down to 53 is the first of what's going to be a number of steps. And yeah, you might see 2 quarterbacks, you might see 3 running backs, you might see a ton of offensive linemen and a ton of defensive linemen until Howie Roseman can get things worked out, maybe a trade, maybe something else, and then maybe a waiver wire pickup. There's going to be all kinds of machinations.
Now, before I get into the locker room, I'd like to know what the mood was in there. What's your thoughts on Reed Blankenship? That safety position has been talked about all summer long. Did he do enough, you think, to maybe crack the roster or no?
I don't think so, from the standpoint that he's a guy you can get through waivers and get on the practice squad. So, that comes into it. It is an interest. I don't think Kayvon Wallace played well today. So, that was a big spot for him. Just saw him in the locker room, had ice all up and down his right arm. Clearly banged up as well. That's the most interesting position. Is Jaquiski Tartt. Ultimately, they might just say, you know what? We're going to default to the veteran player that we know can play in this league and keep him around as the third safety. Josiah Scott, unfortunately, a week ago, I was 100% sure he was going to make this team, and now he's injured and he's not out there. So how does that affect him? You mentioned Reed Blankenship. Andre Sacheret is also hurt. There's a guy who looked like he was en route to making this team. So that position is probably the most interesting one at the cut down.
John, what was it like inside the locker room? I know you were down inside the locker room. You spoke with the head coach. I'm not sure everyone that you spoke to. What was the mood? Does the players, are they putting any stock in this? I know that the feel is whatever, but any competitor does not like to lose 48-10. I think the final score was. What was the mood in the locker room? Did they seem down or all good?
It was subdued. I think it was pretty clear that Nick kind of spent a little bit of extra time. It's a 10-minute cooling off period. It was a little bit longer than that. So clearly, he's a competitor. He was a little bit frustrated. And I'm sure he let the players know that. So they're smart enough to be very, very subdued. And that's how they were. But remember, the players we're going to see in Detroit, they didn't play. So those guys are just sitting there. They're fine. They're not a part of this. Brandon Graham's his usual energetic self. These guys are not starters. So I know everybody's panicking, but think about the starting lineup in projected to be against the Lions. Jalen Hurts, did he play? No. Miles Sanders? No. A.J. Brown? No. Devontae Smith? No. Quez Watkins? No. Dallas Goedert? No. Jordan Mailata? No. Isaac Seumalo? No. Landon Dickerson? No. Jason Kelsey? No. Lane Johnson? No. I can do the same thing with the defense. Nobody played. I don't know why everybody's so upset on Twitter. Nobody played.
Any stock in the coaching, though? I mean, the team that just didn't look. I mean, the Dolphins team looked like they were well coached. They might have been bad players or less talented players, but the team did not look prepared for the game at all.
Well, they didn't prepare for the game. That's another thing people don't understand. There's no game planning. They're not game planning to stop Tua Tagovailoa. They're not game planning to stop Tyreek Hill. I told people all during the week, you're going to see the most vanilla defense you're ever going to see. Same thing offensively. They just ran a bunch of plays, and now we're past it. And thankfully, we're past it. Unfortunately, it was a blowout. You know, you'd rather be on the right side. But guess what? I wouldn't rather be on the right side of the scoreboard if I had to play my starters. I even with Mike McDaniel, you can say what you want about Mike McDaniel. They're well coached. They look well coached. What he did today was dumb. What he did today was dumb. What does he gain from that? Now, luckily, there wasn't any serious injuries that we know of. But it was dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an Eagle fan. I don't like watching the team get beat 48-10. But like you said, I don't put much stock. I mean, you can't put too much stock in it. A lot of back end players out there. Do you have a game ball for tonight? Do you have a player that caught Johnny Mac's eye that you like that you're going to give a game ball to?
Tyreek Hill. I'm not giving it to an Eagle. I mean, if I have to give it the best Eagles player, I'll give it to Patrick Johnson because he stopped the one drive. Tua was out there for 3 drives. They had 2 touchdowns and a field goal. They would have had 3 touchdowns if he didn't get a sack. So we'll give it to Patrick Johnson. All
right. That's it from Johnny Mac for tonight for the post game. Tough one to watch, John. I'll let you finish up some of your writing work down there and get home safely and travel home back to Philly safe because sights are set on September 11th, Eagles versus the Lions when it all really kicks off.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew.
You got it.